From wherever you're watching us in Kenya and around the world, this is KBC Prime Edition coming to you live from Broadcasting House. Good evening, I am Mboya with the news tonight, and it begins right now. Well, we will go straight into our bulletin, and we begin with our lead story. Of course, Lucy Mboya is in charge of our sign language docket, and remember that our socials at KBC Channel 1. Now, that story on power outage. Energy Cabinet Secretary Davis Chirchir says Sunday night's electricity outage in most parts of the country was caused by an overloaded the Kisumu-Muhoroni transmission line. Chirchir says that transmission line was evacuating 149 megawatts of power against its designated 80 megawatts due to a sudden surge in electricity demand. Trevor Ngendo opens our coverage tonight with that story.
It is a power blackout that began 33 minutes past 7 p.m. on Sunday, plunging most parts of the country into total darkness, including East Africa region's biggest airport, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport. Energy Cabinet Secretary says they have established the cause of the blackout to be a system disturbance due to a strained transmission network, which he attributes to slow investment over time.
There is so much constraint in the transmission of electrons from wherever they are generated, and sometimes the network drips when it is overloaded. Yesterday was caused by an overload. They said we know where the problem is and we are addressing those challenges. It's bound to happen again, but we will look at serious maintenance. But the gist of it is lack of investment in the network for a long time.
Kenyans took to various platforms to question the cause of the outages, Sundays being the second one over the last 1 month. Chirchir says the government has secured funding from South Korea to construct an alternative line linking Narok to Bomet and Awendo as part of efforts to load shed. There are further plans to fast-track critical transmission lines to deload the existing lines and strengthen the grid.
It will take some 20 months, but we'll be working on how to mitigate the challenge of constraint on the transmission network to be able to avoid the system being overloaded.
This includes construction of Narok to Bomet 132 kilovolts and completion of Sondu to Nthiwa 132 kilovolts power lines to deload Kisumu-Muhoroni to Chemosit power line and provide stability in South Nyanza and Central Rift regions.
The load shedding that you're talking about will not be a long-lasting effect, but is a short-term measure to ensure that we secure the country and we do not have a national blackout because of overloading of the line.
A total overhaul of the transmission lines is projected to cost $5.3 billion. Chirchir says the government is considering opening up private-public partnerships to forestall the shortfall of generation capacity required to meet the growing demand and replace retiring power plants in the medium term. Trevor Ngendo for Prime Edition.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua has called on the youth in Africa to formulate innovative concepts to solve unemployment challenges as well as other vices besettling the continent. Rigathi, who spoke during the closing ceremony of the African Youth Connect Summit, further implored on youngsters to align the concepts to market demands as a means to attracting funding. Joseph Wahungu with more.
After 3 days of extensive networking sessions, the curtains finally came down on the 6th Africa Youth Connect Summit in Nairobi.
I expected us to have seen youths who have been scouted from their rural homes to come and showcase their talents here.
We do not have to sit down and wait for opportunities from the government. The government does not have enough opportunities for us. We have to get up, go and bring solutions to our community that we come from.
Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua, who presided over the closing ceremony, making a passionate appeal to the youth to use available technological advancements to solve existing challenges in the continent.
The challenges we face are vast and complex, from climate change and unemployment to poverty, inequality, among others. But within these challenges lies opportunities.
The DP also highlighted the need for African youth to align their ideas to market demands in order to attract funding from different stakeholders.
I take this opportunity today to challenge you to unleash your inner innovator. Do not think outside the box. Tear and throw the box away.
Speakers at the meeting called on donors to finance youth's innovations to transform their communities, and concerted efforts to stem hopelessness said to be on the rise among the youth.
Remember that you represent Africa's hope. Africa has been waiting for you. Without you, we cannot make a progress. You are really the hope.
It's about realizing your purpose. It's about linking your talent to transformation and service. You want work. You want an occupation that makes you a valued global citizen.
Delegates at the summit are set to join Kenyans Tuesday in marking the 60th Jamhuri Day celebrations at Uhuru Gardens in Nairobi. For Prime Edition, I'm Joseph Wahungu.
At least 3 heads of state and government are expected to attend this year's Jamhuri Day celebrations to be held at the iconic Uhuru Gardens in Nairobi, Kenya. Belarus President Alexander Lukashenko and his Ethiopian counterpart Sahle-Work Zewde have already arrived in the country as President William Ruto's guests during the celebrations marking 60 years of independence. The President of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia and her delegation were received Monday afternoon at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport by Trade and Industry Cabinet Secretary Rebecca Miano. The Belarus president earlier met President William Ruto at State House Nairobi, where both heads of state agreed to broaden ties between the two nations, particularly on energy, trade, investment, and education. Moving on, the government has increased bursaries under the Constituencies Development Fund to ensure smooth learning. This follows the signing into law of the National Government Constituencies Development Fund Amendment Bill by President William Ruto. Here's that report.
Students are set to benefit more from the increased allocation of bursaries after President William Ruto on Monday assented to the National Government Constituency Development Fund Amendment Bill. The new law increases the allocation from 35% to 40%.
I'm particularly very excited about NGCDF amendment. I think it gives us an opportunity to work with members of parliament in every constituency.
The additional funds will also cater for school feeding programs, especially in drought-stricken areas. The Act also increases NGCDF allocation on environmental activities from 2% to 5% to fund for climate crisis.
We have to be deliberate in making sure that we engage a whole of society approach, in making sure that we intervene in various spaces that will help us manage environmental degradation.
It further introduces a 3% allocation of the fund for constituency digital hubs that the President says will enable the youth to acquire skills to boost their employability.
The ICT hubs that will come as a result of this intervention will give millions of young people across Kenya an opportunity in the digital space.
The President also assented to the National Lottery Bill that paved the way for the establishment of the National Lottery Board that will administer the newly established National Lottery. According to the majority leader in the National Assembly, Kimani Ichung'wah, who sponsored the bill, the role of the National Lottery is to fund social development in the country. Giverson Minor, Prime Edition.
On to politics now. Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya has defended President William Ruto over the high cost of living, calling leaders to put their heads together and assist the head of state in efforts to revive the economy. Mboya, elected on Azimio-affiliated DAP-K party, appears to have broken ranks with his coalition and now says that all leaders have a responsibility to work with the president to improve the country's economic fortunes. Meanwhile, Kiambu Governor Kimani Wamatangi has formally appointed 8 new chief officers following the conclusion of their vetting by the county assembly.
Speaking during a Thanksgiving ceremony of Susu Award MCA Salashi Kisotu in Kipsi, Narok County, Trans Nzoia Governor George Natembeya departed from a position held by his Azimio coalition, appearing to remove all the responsibility on matters economic recovery from President Ruto's doorstep. Natembeya charges that it's the prerogative of all elected leaders, regardless of their political affiliation, to unite and save Kenyans from the high cost of living.
Wakazi wetu wa Narok mmekuwa mnasikia mambo ya cost of living, hali ya maisha imekuwa ngumu, gharama ya maisha imekuwa ngumu. Lakini sisi kama viongozi kwa sasa tunataka tuweke vichwa pamoja. Sio wakati wa kublame, sio kazi ya rais peke yake. Sisi kama magavana pia tuko na nafasi kufanya kazi mashinani, tukisalisha vyakula, tuzalishe mahindi, tusalishe maziwa, gharama ya vyakula inarudi chini. Haiwezi kuwa ni kazi ya rais peke yake na mambo ya blame game. Ile dialogue, ile kazi ambayo alifanya, yale mambo alikubaliana, tuanze kuyatekeleza.
The former Rift Valley Regional Commissioner further challenged political leaders to desist from blame games and employ proactive measures that will boost national government's efforts in reviving the economy.
All over the world, wakati kuna matatizo, watu wanakuja pamoja, wanaweka vichwa pamoja, wanakubaliana, alafu taifa linaenda mbele. Useme kwamba ujue mwenzako anguke chini, labda ndio inuka. Hapana. Wakazi wa Kenya tu wanataka maisha yakuwe mzuri, na ni jukumu ya viongozi wote, haijalishi mlengo gani, kuweka vichwa pamoja kuhakikisha kwamba tunapata suluhu.
So kwa niaba ya watu yako, kwa sababu wanakupenda, wacha nichukue nafasi hii ni kupongeze kwa ile kitu umeenda kushinda. Mimi nafikiri bila kuficha, kama sio Narok walikuonesha kwa hii dunia, leo wewe ungekuwa governor.
In Kiambu County, Area Governor Kimani Wamatangi has formally appointed 8 new chief officers following the conclusion of their vetting by the county assembly. Wamatangi warned the newly appointed officials that his administration will not tolerate incompetence and graft.
Here, integrity is non-negotiable. It's non-negotiable. So I will not entertain, I don't entertain at all deal makers here in this government. If you have the opportunity to be the one to call the shots in a transaction where millions and millions of shillings will be dispensed off to another party because either they give a service and you're the one entrusted to do that, then you must do it with integrity.
Governor Wamatangi, who witnessed as chief officers signed their letters of acceptance, said the appointment was part of the ongoing reconstitution of his government to align with his plans to revitalize Kiambu County. The appointment solved part of his tiff with the county assembly that had threatened to impeach him for his failure to appoint chief officers more than 1 year since assuming office. Gishoki Washira, Prime Edition.
Now, the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Musalia Mudavadi, has defended foreign trips by President William Ruto, saying that the country is in need of an aggressive foreign policy if it were to deal with the high cost of living. The Prime CS, who is also the Cabinet Secretary for Foreign Affairs and Diaspora Affairs, says that the diplomatic charm spearheaded by the head of state has started to bear fruits through the securing of foreign jobs for the youth. Tilio Marco reports.
Speaking during a wellness and farewell day for the Ministry of Foreign and Diaspora Affairs staff at the Ulinzi Sports Complex in Nairobi, where they took stock of the successes and challenges faced this year, Mudavadi said the approach that is being manifested through the president's diplomatic onslaught will better the living standards of Kenyans very soon.
The president's missions were absolutely critical and are essentially very essential, more so at this moment in time when resources globally are scarce and there's heightened competition for those resources, and therefore you cannot afford to have a situation where a nation is sitting laid back and imagine that it will draw those foreign resources and that foreign direct investment to come into your base.
He added that Kenya Kwanza government has worked hard to maintain a positive image and relation with the donor community, a move he says has enabled the country to attract key financial support.
If people think that we are facing a challenge, and indeed we are, and they know we are facing a challenge, can you imagine what that challenge would be economically if the government of Kenya, through yourselves and other players, had not secured an IMF and World Bank program?
He eyed the ministry staff to work together and project Kenya to its rightful position in the diplomatic space.
And now we need to redefine ourselves as we go into a more competitive arena, an arena where communication is much faster, technology is at everybody's fingertips, and so forth. We now have to adjust appropriately and support each other appropriately so that we are okay.
Tilio Marco for Prime Edition.
Now, former President Uhuru Kenyatta Monday received a courtesy call from the Ambassador of the People's Republic of China, Zhu Pingjiang, at his Nairobi office. President Uhuru acknowledged the great partnerships between the two nations and how it shaped development agenda during his tenure. The visit comes as the two nations prepare to mark 60 years of cemented relations. Pyongyang, on his part, reiterated the great impact of the relations between the two countries and how partnership has fostered strong economic, political, as well as cultural ties. The immediate former president also briefed the Chinese ambassador about his current role in the continent on peace and security, emphasizing on the place of peace in Africa's development. This is a third high-profile meeting, by the way, in a week. Remember, the other one was with the British High Commissioner Neil Wigan and U.S. Ambassador to Kenya, Meg Whitman. Now, the National Heroes Council is calling on government to expedite the establishment of the National Heroes Fund. The council says that the fund will be essential in bestowing honor to the fallen heroes and their dependents. In the meantime, the council has honored posthumously 3 of Kenya's heroes who led their communities in resisting the British rule and advancing public interest in post-independence Kenya. Here's that report.
Ahead of the Jamhuri Day celebrations slated for Tuesday, the National Heroes Council feted the late Koitalel Arap Samoei, Kipchomber Arap Koilegen, and former politician James Osogo for the exemplary roles of leading their communities in resisting the British colonial rule fearlessly and dedication to advancing public good in post-independence Kenya. While presenting the medals and certificates to the families of the 3 heroes, the council's chairman, Jimmy Angwenye, said the recognition enriches the preservation of Kenya's history.
Koitalel played a very important part in initiating the freedom of Kenyans.
The first time the council was honoring people posthumously.
The 3 were nominated and honored during this year's Mashujaa Day celebrations held in Kericho County. The families hailed the government for honoring the sacrifice of the fallen heroes.
For us, this is a great honor from the government of Kenya and the National Heroes Council to recognize our late father posthumously for the achievements or the deeds that he did for this country.
The Nandi will be able to recognize their leader is now recognized by the government as well as by the people of this country.
The council has in the meantime called on the government to expedite the establishment of the National Heroes Fund, which will assist families of the fallen heroes.
The fund is running. Most of the things we want to achieve in terms of supporting the heroes whom we are identifying and honoring will be achieved.
Doreen Arange for Prime Edition.
Into the corridors of justice, a Milimani Children's Court has released a 72-year-old Dutch national accused of 10 charges of indecent acts with minors on a 2 million bond and ordered to deposit his passport to the court. Meanwhile, the Nkobo Law Court in Meru County has ordered 3 suspects connected to the National Hospital Insurance Fund scandal to secure the release with a 1 million bond each. Details in the Scales of Justice segment.
District Charity Olocho had deferred the ruling last Friday, say the prosecution did not present to the court compelling reasons to deny the accused bail or bond. The head of the Milimani's Children Court ruled that though the accused lacked a fixed abode, she has set out guidelines to ensure the accused attend trial.
Not persuade the court to find he thereby has a fixed place of residence in Kenya. It is not
Jan Veld was arrested at the Jomo Kenyatta International Airport 10 days ago while attempting to take a flight to his home country, Netherlands. The trial magistrate has set the mention for 2nd January and hearing for 9th January next year, respectively.
I am holding Director's Promise Part 1. The accused shall be released on a bond of 2 million, 2 Kenyan sureties of the same amount.
Elsewhere, 3 suspects connected to the NHIF scandal have denied 3 offences leveled against them before Principal Magistrate Otieno Amba at the Nkubu Locus in Meru. The trio was charged with the offences of impersonation, carrying out medical camps without a license, and defrauding unsuspecting citizens.
With the statements we supplied, plus copies of documents, copies of documents to be relied upon, mentioned from January 2024, Court 1.
And Francis Kifi has pleaded guilty to having 12 rolls of cannabis sativa. The court was informed that the rolls found with the suspect were not in their medicinal preparation form.
The charge sheet and any other documentary evidence the prosecution intends to rely on and will be mentioned on 21st of this month.
Ruth Womboy for Prime Edition.
The Scales of Justice. It brings us to a first break here on KBC Prime Edition. Coming up, we dive deeper into the second part of this live broadcast, including our special coverage on Kenya at 60. Stay with us.
Cheza Loto Moto.
School fees ya msichana imemalizwa.
Loto Moto. May the Almighty God bless you. Keep on doing the right thing.
Cheza Loto Moto. Shinda pesa moto moto.
Kwenye ulimwengu wa sasa, taaluma za mikono zina umaarufu mwingi. Jiunge na Sensei Institute of Technology tukupe ujuzi na uzoefu wa kushughulikia ulimwengu. Tunafunza taaluma kama plant operator, plant mechanics, kuendesha gari na trailer, kuweka CCTV na alarm, kuweka solar, kuweka stima, motorcycle, motor vehicle mechanics na electronics, teknolojia ujenzi wa mijengo, ujenzi wa barabara na mabwawa, hospitality na taaluma nyinginezo. Kujiunga nasi, beba kitambulisho chako na utembelee tawi letu lolote. Sensei College, my skills, my future.
In a world filled with uncertainty, there is one thing we can always count on: the power of compassion and generosity. Every day, families in Kenya face unimaginable challenges and hardships. They struggle to put food on the table, provide shelter for their loved ones, and access basic health care. But today, you have the power to make a difference. By just contributing 1 shilling and 50 cents from your airtime, your generosity can provide access to sanitary pads, nutritious food, clean water, education, and life-saving medical care to those who need it most. To support this cause, please tune in to your favorite radio station under the KBC umbrella for step-by-step instructions on how to subscribe. KBC Helping Hands. Together, we can make a difference and bring hope to those in need.
Beberu hakutaka kutia sukuko mbele, hakutaka kufanya chochote, na kwa hivyo watu wakawa hawana nafasi.
Ijapokuwa watu wakisema kufundisha watoto watapata kazi wapi?
Our villages and towns are powered by electricity.
How has Kenya fared in the realization of her independence clarion call of eliminating ignorance, poverty and diseases? Kenya at 60, a special KBC coverage beginning Monday, the 4th of December to Jamhuri Day.
Welcome back to Prime Edition, our socials at KBC Channel 1. Let's swing to the NTSA story. The National Transport and Safety Authority, beg your pardon, there was a mix-up there a little bit, is seeking a nod to hike charges on services, citing increased costs of doing business. Speaking during a stakeholders meeting here in Nairobi, Kenya, the authority's board chairperson, Paul Abwara, said that services rendered by the entity are not commensurate to revenue allocated and now seeks to increase all its charges by over, you guessed it right, 100%.
In the proposal to review the fees and charges for services it is offering, NTSA wants to be allowed to increase charges for licensing, certification and inspection.
Challenges have been growing, the number of roads, the number of stations for inspection purposes. We need to improve on our systems. We need to improve on capacity to manage the road traffic challenges. And that's why we need to increase our budget to be able to foot the necessary engagement as per our mandate.
The authority wants to increase licensing mainly passenger vehicles by 100%, with a 14-seater matatu expected to pay 6,400 shillings, up from 3,200 shillings being charged currently. Motorcycle registration will also go up also by 100%, from 735 shillings to 1,470 shillings for motorbikes below 250cc. Motor vehicle registration for cars between 1,501cc to 1,700cc will go up from 2,800 to 5,600 if the proposal is endorsed. The proposal is also seeking to increase charges on transfer of motor vehicles of between 2,001cc from 3,845 shillings to 7,690 shillings. Change of particular colours will move up from 500 shillings to 20,000 shillings in the proposal.
They can go out. People call them. We want to partner. We want to help. We want to reduce crashes. But they're not going to do it for free, right? They need money. So where do we get this money from?
Currently, our 2023-2024 budget stands at about 4.7 billion shillings. Way below what we expected to do, because if you look at our statements of finance, most of the funds that don't come in, we are offering more than at a higher cost in terms of service than what we are able to collect from the services.
NTSA says the funding proposal will enable it to roll out, among others, the Integrated Road Safety Management System and employ an Integrated National Transport Information Management System and dashboard.
The consultants are going to sit back and look at the proposals that, including yourselves, have provided today. Then, based on, of course, we need to look at it as a board again. After they make the draft copy again to us, we look at it. We escalate it to the ministry. That's how things move. So we don't know yet until we get that report from the
authority says after getting public views, and it will retreat to digest the recommendation for final draft. Kasicha Nambasha, Prime Edition.
Now, the Information, Communication and Digital Economy Cabinet Secretary Eliud Owalo has challenged women in Nyanza to form or join cooperatives to leverage government economic funds. Owalo made those remarks as he joined former Ariada Member of Parliament, National Assembly, Nicholas Gumbo on the launch of Kagwa Uyoma Sakwa Cooperative. Earlier, the Cabinet Secretary had officiated the launch of the Jitume Digital Hub at Makasembo Mixed Secondary School.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Morning, students. Say thank you to the government of the day and it is something that will be necessary for you to get jobs in the ministers that you'll be able to work internationally where you as part and parcel of President William Ruto's bottom-up economic transformation agenda, small and medium enterprises is at the center of it. And that is why deliberately and consciously the government is hell-bent on empowering both the youth and women by way of small and medium enterprises. So we want to urge our people, more so the women, to constitute themselves into cooperative societies. You cannot grow if you are doing business alone, but you have got all the attendant opportunities to grow if you work together through SACCO.
Let's now devolve to the county's 2 siblings have been burnt to death while 2 others have been rescued after a fire broke out and gutted 12 houses in Karugubi village in Kabete constituency, Kiambu County. Miriam Nakonde and her brother Clever Aaron had been left at home when the tragedy occurred. These and more stories in our county news roundup.
A somber mood has engulfed Karungubi village, Kabete constituency in Kiambu County after 2 siblings were burnt to death in an inferno on Monday afternoon.
Na hii sababu watoto wako kwa maboma waangalie kabisa because niko na wao hapa na hata wacha hapa tu, hata kwingine tutaendelea na baraza, sababu hii time lazima mtu achuke watoto sana. Kanyaga.
Meanwhile, the Kenya Peasants League has accused county assemblies of enacting laws without public participation.
Tumechambua hii bill na tukaona Kenya iko hapo ndani haiendanishi na maneno yenye inafaa sisi wenyewe tufanye nini, tuongelelee. Kuko na komiti wanasema ziko. Tunataka kujua hizi komiti ziliformiwa aje.
In Kisii County, the clergy have decried insecurity incidents being directed against churches, especially during the festive season.
Naomba wazazi tuchunge sana watoto wetu kwa sababu madawa ya kulevya imekuwa juu sana, ili tuangalie watoto wakitoka ujue wameenda wapi, na pia uangalie mtoto vile anaonekana na vile ana act. Mtoto anaweza kuja ingie kwa bedroom harare, wewe unafikiri amechoka, kumbe mtoto ni mlevi.
Theft of church property was singled out as the most rampant, and the clergy accused the local authorities of delayed response upon being alerted. Finally, Professor Egara Kabaji, an author, has unveiled the first Maragoli dictionary to help the current generation understand the language and the meaning of the words.
Naona wa Chinese wako na dictionary yao, wazungu wako na yao, wazulu wako na yao, waganda wako na yao. Nikasema kwa nini na sisi tusiwe na dictionary yetu, ili watoto wetu hawa wanaweza kupitia wajue wajifunze lugha yetu.
The author, who is a lecturer at the Masinde Muliro University, says it has taken him 10 years to identify Maragoli words through research before compiling a 420-page Logoli dictionary.
Welcome to the business segment. I'm sitting in for the news anchor. Plans are at an advanced stage to establish Kenya's first nuclear research facility at Konza Technopolis. Wycliffe Ogalo, the administration secretary in Ministry of Energy, says that the facility is currently under review of the International Atomic Energy Agency. Ogalo says that the nuclear research facility is critical in accelerating Kenya's drive towards nuclear science.
Kenya is among countries that have expressed interest in upscaling nuclear technology amid an international clamor for a swift energy transition towards low carbon. Kenya, which targets to start building a nuclear power plant in the year 2027, is also mulling plans to set up a nuclear research facility at Konza Technopolis.
The construction we expect to begin probably within 2 years' time, and we anticipate that the research reactor, if all plans go as scheduled, should commence functioning by 2030.
Under the Integrated Nuclear Infrastructure Review Mission being conducted by a team from the International Atomic Energy Agency are in Kenya for 7 days to review the nuclear facility for research at Konza.
You know that, as I mentioned already, there is no specific that tracks that the country should be ready, and the country should just to work in all areas and to present to their neighbors and to the other world members of IAEA that they are ready, safely operate of nuclear power.
If given the green light, the nuclear research facility at Konza Technopolis will support key sectors of Kenya's economy, such as health, education, and manufacturing.
Of the unwavering commitment by the government of Kenya to implement the research reactor program in accordance to the highest international standards. These standards will be upheld in all stages of development and operation of the project.
Well, we are at the tail end of the development of the nuclear policies for Kenya. Right now we are engaged in stakeholder participation, and we will very soon have a conference to validate those policies.
This even as Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority races to align policies to enable implementation of nuclear projects. Alanoko, Prime Edition.
The Kenya Revenue Authority has collected 1.03 trillion shillings between the 1st of July and the 8th of December this year. The taxman attributes the growth to oil taxes that grew 42.5%, netting 27.9 billion shillings since July of this year.
The Kenya Revenue Authority says it collected more than 1 trillion shillings in the first 5 months and 1 week period since 1st of July this year. In the months of July, August, September, October, and November this year, KRA says it netted 963.746 trillion shillings compared to 856.646 billion shillings collected in the same period last year, representing a growth of 12.5%. Customs recorded the second highest monthly collection after netting 72.116 billion shillings in the month of November, representing a year-on-year 17.6% growth.
KRA has collected 963.7 billion in the first 5 months of this financial year, compared to 856.6 billion. That translates into a growth of 12.5% or 107.1 billion. But it's very important to note, as at Friday, that was 8th of December, we have closed the 1 trillion mark in terms of revenue collection. I think that is a milestone.
KRA attributes the increased tax collection in the current financial year to oil taxes that netted 27.943 billion shillings, translating to a growth rate of 42.5%.
In the Q1, fuel taxes recorded a decline, but now we are seeing a growth in fuel taxes. So much so now, as at 5 months, we have a growth of 7.3%.
This is in addition to the harmonization of VAT, which saw goods charged at 8% increase to 16% through the Finance Act 2023. KRA says depreciation of the shilling coupled with rising prices of some products like fuel could drive down import demand.
I think the policies that are being implemented is to improve the economy. Yeah. So we hope for a better tomorrow.
KRA targets to collect 2.787 trillion shillings in the financial year ending 30th June 2024. Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
County governments should train small-scale millers on maize flour fortification to improve nutrition. According to a nutrition expert, report by the Global Alliance for Improved Nutrition Residents, Pomo settlement are the worst affected by nutrition, and there is need for fortification to be integrated into the country's food systems.
Fortification compliance of wheat flour is at 80%, while that of maize flour is at 40%, as small-scale maize millers struggle with fortification compliance. The low fortification compliance for maize flour is attributed to non-compliance among small-scale millers. Counties are believed to have a key to unlock this by, among others, formulating fortification policies tailored for small-scale millers in their respective devolved units.
This second generation, we are very much deliberate, asking the counties now to have even their own domesticated strategies or cascading some of these frameworks in a way that can also give them opportunity to really attract resources and appropriate resources, including having more strategic work around.
We're having the underweights, and again, we're also having children who are having micronutrient deficiencies, which are different forms of malnutrition in the same population. And therefore, to address some of these issues, and also for the deficiency, we're having the micronutrient powders, which has multiple nutrients, minerals, and vitamins to be able to be given to the children who are below 5 years.
In addition, extension of tax breaks to millers to set up fortification lines at their mills, as well as incentives, could drive up compliance.
There's a lot of milling taking place, a lot of industry players that are involved in fortification that need a bit more governance and surveillance to be heightened so that the kind of food that we're consuming in these counties are more nutritious and are really able to give us the value in terms of our health.
Benson Rioba reporting for Prime Edition.
Well, that report brings us to our second break. Remember, after this live broadcast, a special coverage on Kenya at 60. Don't go away. We'll be back shortly.
Cheza Loto Moto.
School fees ya mtoto imelipwa, lakini bado tunataka kuendelea throughout.
Loto Moto imekuja kwa maisha yetu when I needed it the most. That is all I can say for now. I'm so grateful. May God bless you.
Cheza Loto Moto. Shinda pesa moto moto.
Over the years, we have been putting you on the front seat to witnessing our country's history, covering Kenya's most defining moments. As we commemorate 60 years of independence, we give you yet another chance to be part of Kenya's history. This year's Jamhuri Day celebrations will be presided over by His Excellency President Dr. William Ruto at Uhuru Gardens. Watch the live coverage of the celebrations on Tuesday, 12th December 2023 on KBC Channel 1.
Welcome back. A major deadlock threatens to scuttle the conference of the parties' talks just hours before the meeting comes to a close in Dubai. The final declaration is facing delays due to a stalemate on whether to phase out or slow down the phases of the use of fossil fuels. While major oil-producing countries like Saudi Arabia, host UAE, and the United States of America are favoring a phased-out approach, non-oil producing countries want a text on fossil fuels phased out, including the final text. Here is O'Brien Kimani with the COP28 deadlock in Dubai.
Who will blink first? That is the question here at the COP28. With less than 24 hours before the conference of the parties, come to a close here. We do not have the final declaration yet. The president of COP28, Sultan Al Jaber, is striking a highly optimistic note, saying that by the close of the day tomorrow, we should have a deal. He's pleading with countries to soften their stances and reach for a compromise.
And I will give everything to deliver what the world really needs. But I need your help, and I need you to step up, and I need you to unite, and I need you to work together.
It's time to seek compromise for solutions without compromising on the science or compromising on the need for the highest ambition.
African countries are also voicing their concerns that some of the major issues that they were fronting have not been addressed. And these include the issue of Climate Adaptation Fund. They're saying that Africa requires more than $400 billion every year to deal with climate adaptation. But not even 20% of this is flowing to the continent, raising serious concerns.
All indications are that we are heading to a failure, because unless miracles happen, we have those brackets which have a lot of disagreements are removed in the next few hours, then I don't know why we should not say this is a failure. Because there are metrics. As Africa, we came here from Africa Climate Summit with our outcomes and our expectations on the COP28.
It's almost approaching 11 o'clock here in Dubai, United Arab Emirates. We are waiting to see whether negotiators will come out of the negotiating rooms with a deal, or they'll kick the can down the road and wait for COP29. We are not sleeping either until the final text is out. My name is O'Brien Kimani. Thank you very much indeed for your time. I'm taking you back now to Broadcasting House.
A very good evening to you. My name is Daniel Wahome, and welcome to Prime Edition Sport. And the National Olympics Committee of Kenya, NOC, has confirmed its readiness and commitment to deliver the Paris Olympic Games set to be held in France next year. According to NOC, the country is planning on sending a strong delegation to the Olympics as they target a big medal haul.
According to the NOC Secretary General Francis Mutuku, Kenya is aiming to set a record at the Olympics by winning as many medals as possible.
I know everyone's dream, everyone's wish, everyone's aspiration is to participate in Olympics. However, when you are seated where we are, where there are very limited resources, then you have to dig a little bit more and find out who are the people who we can give resources. And therefore we gave two teams, women's team grants. That was the volleyball team and the women's 3x3 for grants.
Mutuku also pointed out that all the federation will hold national trials on time in order to select the national squad that will join camp and commerce training.
We have a team of technical to look at the prospects of a team based on the rankings, based on the performance, and I believe that will continue assisting us in that area.
His words were echoed by the NOC president, Dr. Paul Tergat, who added that their aim is to promote sports in the country.
We have invested heavily in various sports administration and management trainings over the year as part of the endeavor to enhance governance practice within our federations.
The Paris 2024 Olympics will be held between July 25th and August 11th next year. For Prime Edition Sports, I'm Daniel Mwendwa.
Now, the Homa Bay County Girls team defeated Uasin Gishu County Girls by 4-1 to finish third in the ongoing Talanta Hela tournament. The finals will be played tomorrow at the Nyayo National Stadium and will be televised live on KBC Channel 1 NY 254.
Joy Mavila scored a hat-trick for Homa Bay Girls team.
Atieno contributed one goal that ensured Homa Bay girls finished third in the ladies category. Kathleen Kurgut scored a consolation goal for Uasin Gishu, who finished fourth.
There's so much positive. We have never played in Nyayo. We only know that Nyayo is a place for other people, not us. But this time we feel a belonging. We feel that this facility belongs to us. It doesn't matter where you come from. You can be given the opportunity to be able to play in Nyayo, Kasarani, and that was just...
The match between Vihiga County Boys and Nakuru County Boys was not played after the players failed to turn up for the match. On Tuesday, Kisumu will face Homa Bay in the boys' final, while Busia Girls will take on Kisumu in the ladies' finals. The winners of the tournament will pocket 5 million shillings. The finals will be televised live on KBC Channel 1 and Y254. For Prime Edition, I'm Sela Onyango.
Now, the Kenya Under-15 girls team registered a 2-0 victory over Rwanda in the CAF African Schools Football Championship SEKAFA qualifiers that kicked off today at the Kasarani Stadium. In other results, Kenya's Under-15s boys team lost 1-0 to Tanzania, while Uganda thrashed Somalia by 3-0.
Faith Boke and Brenda Achieng scored for Kenya to assure them the 2-0 win over Rwanda. Estabitha Wamboi lone goal sealed the 1-0 victory over Tanzania in the second game.
Nusra Jafari akaupata Tabitha Wamboi na kujaza kitu kambani kwa Kenya goli moja.
In other results, Uganda drew 0-0 with Tanzania as Rwanda and Burundi registered the same scoreline. Meanwhile, the Kenya Under-15 boys kicked off their campaign with a 1-0 loss to Tanzania, but they redeemed themselves with 2-0 win over Somalia. Uganda beat Somalia 3-0, while Rwanda drew 1-1 with Burundi. The tournament features 6 teams: Kenya, Uganda, Somalia, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Burundi.
And veteran broadcaster in the sports department, Peter Kimeu, has passed on. According to his family, Kimeu passed on last night in Matu, Machakos County. Kimeu, who had retired, will be remembered for football and athletics analysis and sports programs like Mwengo wa Spoti, Ulimwengu wa Michezo, and Ukumbi wa Spoti. And I'd like to personally send my condolences to the family of Peter Kimeu, because I worked with him in radio sports and we also had a lot of experiences with him, you know, the great ones and everything that comes with handling sports events. Truly, sport is now less endowed with the death of Peter Kimeu. Now, moving on is that the Harpoon Swim Club are the overall champions of the Kiambu County Aquatics Association Masters Swimming Championship held at Porterhouse School. Elsewhere, Ishiara FC maintained their positive start of the FKF Division 2 Northern Zone Pool B League game after edging Ewasco FC by 2-1 in the Embu Derby played at the Moi Stadium in Embu.
The Harpoon Swim Club were overall team champion with 153 points ahead of Premier Swim Club and Comprehend Swim Kenya, who finished second and third respectively. Abdal Harib from Harpoon Swim Club bagged gold medal in the men 25 meters breaststroke 25 years to that year's category, while Gro Magzi from Comprehend Swim Kenya won women that 1 years to 40 years 25 meters category breaststroke. Meanwhile, Kiambu County Governor Wamatangi pledged his full support for swimming programs, promising to oversee the construction of standardized Olympic swimming pool in Kirigiti and Thika Stadium. Elsewhere, Ishiara FC maintained their positive start of the season of the FKF Division 2 Northern Zone Pool B League after edging out Ewasco FC 2-1 played at the Moi Stadium. Newton West Coast scored the opener for Ishiara in the 54th minute before Carlos Mugendi equalized 8 minutes later.
And that's the sport for tonight. So tomorrow, it's Kenya at 60. We'll be celebrating 60 years of Kenya having become an independent nation, and also 59 years. Here's a conundrum. 60 years Kenyan independence, 59 years of Kenya as a republic, and also looking at what achievements we made over the 60 years of independence and 59 years as a republic. So join us tomorrow bright and early from 6 a.m. until late as we do all that, and also as we enjoy the Talanta Hela Grand National Finals, 3 p.m. and it's going to be on KBC Channel 1 NY 254. So the youngsters of Kenya bringing everything to a standstill. We'll be taking a look at Kenya at 60. We've got stories from culture, film, politics, education, and also emerging sports. So look out for that in the next 1 hour. Mboya, over to you.
We've gone ahead tukamaliza pia school fees ya your other kid.
Thank you God. Asante sana Loto Moto.
Cheza Loto Moto. Shinda pesa moto moto.
In a world filled with uncertainty, there is one thing we can always count on: the power of compassion and generosity. Every day, families in Kenya face unimaginable challenges and hardships. They struggle to put food on the table, provide shelter for their loved ones, and access basic health care. But today, you have the power to make a difference. By just contributing 1 shilling and 50 cents from your airtime, your generosity can provide access to sanitary pads, nutritious food, clean water, education, and life-saving medical care to those who need it most. To support this cause, please tune in to your favorite radio station under the KBC umbrella for step-by-step instructions on how to subscribe. KBC Helping Hands. Together, we can make a difference and bring hope to those in need.
KBC Channel 1 magazine programs strive to disseminate news and information.
Welcome to Happening in the World of Entertainment
and achievements of individuals navigating through life.
Be parts of the intelligent conversation.
Papa KBC Channel 1. Related to the interests of Kenyan public on various subjects of national importance.
Keeping you up to date with the latest tech news,
challenges, and remarkable stories of individuals with disabilities.
And you have a say.
Our magazine programs empower communities with words for conversations and a common language to approach the world.
For your infotainment needs, we have a great range of programs.
There you are. That's all we had time for on Prime Edition. I want to thank you so much for watching. On their behalf, my name is Mboya. But before we leave, upon Kenya attaining independence in 1963, the founding president, Jomo Kenyatta, described the country's dream as achievable, though through the elimination of ujinga, umaskini, and ugonjwa. To President Jomo Kenyatta, ujinga meant ignorance, and the solution would be through education. Umaskini meant poverty, and the way out of umaskini was in fixing the country's economy. Ugonjwa, on the other hand, meant disease, and that medicine was the way to go, having an elaborate healthcare system. Now, it's just a few hours from now, Kenya will be marking 60 years since independence. Questions abound. Has the country fixed ujinga, umaskini, and ugonjwa? This is coming up. But first, some highlights. Good night and enjoy the viewing. Did you know that 23 individuals have served as ministers for education since independence? Who are they and what is their contribution? A look at the involvement of Kenya Broadcasting Corporation since independence to date. Plus, first held in 1953 as the East African Coronation Safari in Kenya, Uganda and Tanganyika, we tell you the history of the Safari Rally as Kenya turns 60.
When Kenya attained independence, one Kisoi Muyao erected the national flag atop Mount Kenya's Batian Peak to celebrate the newfound freedom.
Clean your hands, raise the flag of freedom.
At Uhuru Gardens, the Union Jack was lowered and the Kenyan flag hoisted, and since then, Kenya has made several milestones in celebrating its rich and diverse culture. Nestled on the outskirts of Nairobi, the capital city of Kenya, the Bomas of Kenya stands as a vibrant testament to the nation's cultural heritage. Established in 1971, the Cultural Center has become a cornerstone for the preservation and celebration of Kenya's diverse ethnic groups.
It's an idea that came back in 1970 from the defunct KTDC, Kenya Tourism Development Corporation, which moved to Tourism Finance Corporation, right now Kenya Development Corporation, where they started. It was an idea which was formed that it is important to see how do we commence a facility that can represent and showcase the image of Kenya for the former 8 provinces, but someone is in Nairobi. So it started by the 6 villages and of course the what we call the main auditorium hall. Those are the 2 facilities that started Bomas of Kenya.
At Bomas of Kenya, visitors are treated to a kaleidoscope of traditional music, dance and folklore, showcasing the rich cultural mosaic that defines Kenya.
If you look back in 1957, we had a group of dancers in Western Kenya, among the Maragoli, who could do performing art. So when the whitesmen were there, they said there's a group there which can be brought in Nairobi. So the Maragoli dancers were the first group which came in. Then, of course, brought in the other dancers.
From the rhythmic beats of the drum to the colorful attire worn by performers, every detail is a nod to the country's history and traditions. The Bomas of Kenya serves as a living museum dedicated to preserving the customs, rituals and traditions of Kenya's ethnic communities. The cultural village within the complex authentically recreates traditional homesteads, allowing visitors to experience the diverse ways of life across the nation. The village showcases the traditional way of living as well as crafts, music and dance, representing the lifestyle of ethnic groups such as Luo, Kikuyu, Kalenjin, Taita, Maasai, among other communities. The traditional houses are set out in clusters according to regions and feature the various aspects of a cultural homestead.
Cultural tourism is a product that cannot be ignored. And given it is niche in the form that this particular product can only be given out or showcased once a proper research has been done. We have seen the number of tourists, both domestic and of course non-resident growing each and every time.
Research is the cornerstone of Bomas of Kenya, as it ensures that the institution remains true to its representation of Kenya's rich and diverse culture. Beyond its role as a tourist attraction, the Bomas of Kenya has also emerged as an educational hub where thousands of students visit annually, immersing themselves in the rich tapestry of Kenyan culture through interactive workshops, performances and exhibitions.
It's important we document. Once you have documented these particular items in regard to zoology, performing arts, it is important we pass it to the generation that we have. So in regard to education, we will always perform relevant classes as and the request comes. And we do sensitization to the schools. And we have tried to see how do we embed to the KBC program.
In 2011, Utamaduni Restaurant was built. The architecture inspired by the Maasai Manyatta. The restaurant offers indigenous Kenyan cuisine from over 40 communities.
Utamaduni Restaurant was reborn. Should be in 2008. That's when it was reborn. Now the cuisines were researched and done in its original form. I think it's at Bomas you can get what we call this beer among the Kikuyu called Moratina. It's a wine, not a beer. Say wine is good for the stomach. At Bomas you can do a very nice Moratina. Then of course among other traditional brews, including busa from Western. Then we have other foods in Itangege from the Luo. We do it so culturally.
By fostering cultural understanding among the youth, Bomas of Kenya contributes to the unity and cohesion of the nation, bridging gaps between different communities. One of its unique features is the botanical garden that plays a crucial role in identification and preservation of medicinal herbs and indigenous trees such as Cape fig, wild date palm and exotic trees such as casuarina, Indian rubber plant, jacaranda, among others.
A classic example, say a mugumo tree. We know the people among the Kikuyu cultures had this particular mugumo tree, and the mugumo tree was used with certain values, including, of course, medicinal values. We have another, let's say, ethnic group, let's say, among the Kisis, where they have a tree called Omutembei. This particular tree, it has certain values beyond medicinal values.
The Bomas of Kenya has played host to significant events in Kenya. From hosting traditional dance shows, the Bomas draft of the new constitution to the coordination and announcement of general elections.
The first Utamaduni Day was launched in Bomas of Kenya. Under Utamaduni Day, you'll find that we tried to bring in quite a number of stakeholders all over the counties, actually among all the 47 counties, who were able to represent, and they were able to showcase the relevant cuisines from different cultures. Bomas played a critical role in bringing minds together, and actually it gave birth to the constitution which improvement was done on. So we feel proud we were part of the team that played a role in bringing up the constitution. I'll give another magnanimous event that happened each and every time. I'm talking of elections. If you look at the last three elections, that is 2013, 2017, and 2022, Bomas, we are proud to have hosted the Electoral Commission, given it has been changing names. Currently is Independent Electoral and Boundaries Commission. For communities who have thought when they want to settle their issues, where do they meet? They have always come to meet at Bomas.
Over the years, Bomas of Kenya has evolved in response to changing cultural dynamics, innovation and technology, with notable changes, the latest being digitization.
Currently, we have developed what we call sample bar. digitizing whatever we have into a form that can be accessed digitally, not relevantly being at Bomas, but this can be accessed being anywhere in the world.
Other productions include Chapa Story, a storytelling program, Dance Nasi, which is an online dance program, among others. With everyday changes, a myriad of milestones are yet to be incorporated.
Be transformed into having culture embracing digital, rather embracing across digital technology, and of course we are looking at a way of uplifting the facility. The facility is going to be uplifted, and we are expecting in the couple of years you are going to see quite a number of activities. We're going to have what we call BICC, Bomas International Complex Center. What is all about in this thing? BICC, we are looking at Bomas having a modern convention center where we can hold up to 15,000 packs.
Separately, a section of leaders from various communities highlight that Kenya has made significant strides in preservation of culture since independence. These even as they call upon measures to be put in place to preserve Kenya's rich and diverse cultures.
Wakikuyu walikuwa na serikali yao. Kusema ni serikali yao ni kusema ya kwamba walijua vile wanatatua shida zao. Kama kulikuwa na kesi ama zile kesi labda unaweza fikiri ni kesi kubwa kama ya mauaji, walikuwa wanajua vile wanaweza fanya. Hata wazee walikuwa wanakaa chini, hata kama ni mtu ameua ndugu yake ama ameua rafiki yake, wangekaa chini na waongee. Yale mambo yalikuwa mazuri, tunayafuata. Tukiyafuata ukweli wa mambo, hiyo ndio italeta mabadiliko makubwa sana katika yale mambo mabaya tunaona saa hii, kwa sababu watu wengi wamepotea kwa sababu wamewacha zile mila nzuri za zamani.
Sasa kuna haja ya wazee na kina mama na vyama vilivyoko katika jamii ya Kiswahili kuwakumbusha vijana. Kumekuwa na gap ya elimu baina ya wale wanaojua na vijana wa kisasa ambao hawajui mila na desturi zao. Vipi paka anaweza kumfundisha mtoto wake akawa paka?
Jackie Wambiru for KBC Channel 1.
I know you're wondering I'm still here after signing off, but that cultural report reminded me of what Mahatma Gandhi once said, that a nation culture resides in the hearts and in the soul of its people. That one was too close to my heart, so I've decided to be with you for the next 1 hour. And from culture, let's together move into film. Kenya is world-renowned for its attractive shooting locations. The film industry in Kenya has seen tremendous growth from the early stages of colonization, where whatever was produced was meant for non-Africans, until the first Swahili film, Mlevi, which translates to a drunk in English, in 1968, that starred our very own Oliver Litondo. Jacqueline Macharia takes us down the history of the film industry and how it has shaped our country over the years.
Nairobi is a city in touch with the rest of the world. With over 10 cinema halls in the city and its environs, one is able to enjoy the latest films as they are released from different parts of the world. What is more exciting for the young Kenyans is that they can participate in this exciting creative art by producing their own local films and release them on video and television across Africa and even on big screens alongside other Hollywood and Bollywood great films. But this journey has taken over 100 years to grow. Mudamba Mudamba, who is the program's director of DocuBox Kenya, a documentary film fund, recalls the film industry in the colonial days.
In the early 1900s with the silent film that was actually filmed with Theodore Roosevelt, then the president of the US, who had come for game hunting, and this film was able to make for a lot of interest in game drives in Kenya and the interest in wildlife in general. And I think that could be what was able to bring the National Geographics and all that, the films that became really interesting when it comes to NGO type films.
Small loads, which they can... During the Second World War, the colonial government in Kenya introduced mobile cinemas as an experiment in educating native populations. As cinema was novelty to many local communities, the colonial government was quick to realize the effectiveness of using it to boost the morale of the people. In 1959-1960, when the state of emergency was ended, the mobile cinema unit was disbanded. However, in 1966, 3 years after independence, the government reintroduced mobile cinemas.
It was used actually mainly to be able to educate Africans on the European culture, and definitely what was happening is that it was a skewed way of being able to look at our own culture versus the European culture, where the Africans were always viewed in a different way. And definitely it was also being used to be able to educate Africans in cinema making, but at the same time indoctrinate Africans on the lower scale where they stand compared to the whites.
During this period, no Africans were involved in shooting films, except perhaps as extras.
So when we look at the era of shooting film, we didn't have a lab in the country, so every time you have to shoot with film, you're either going to send your stock in Dubai or South Africa, which was going through apartheid then, and it was a little bit more complicated. Kodak had an office then, and or UK. Every other shoot, you'd have an HOD who was a foreigner on set, and that has continuously changed over the years with the expertise and the training on the jobs, with the increase of film schools like ADMI, which is about a decade now, like multimedia, Kenya Film School, which is also growing up very, very well. All these universities have played a very significant role in pumping up students from film schools and learning the basics and the introduction into the market.
In 1964, Bellevue Drive-In Cinema came to be. Paul Okech takes us back to its history, noting that back then the price would vary depending on if the film was new or repeated. One would get to watch a film from the comfort of his or her car. The films were projected on the big screen, and each day had a specific genre of film that was being showcased.
We did not use to plan. We know what people like. So if it comes to comedy movies, that one we normally screen them on during weekdays. That was Monday to Thursdays. And those were English movies, comedies, like Terence Hill, Bud Spencer, something like that. And on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we normally used to screen this Asian movie, which were good, and they like it, and that was good for our business those days.
The drive-in now is permanently closed. Paul notes that after the introduction of DVDs, the culture of driving to watch films reduced, leading to increased losses to the business. In 1968, an Asian by the name Lagbir Singh did the first ever Kiswahili feature-length film Mlevi that featured renowned actor Oliver Litondo.
He came with a script, Swahili, the first Swahili film to be made. He came with a script. He brought in people from from Bombay to come and do the production. And that was a film, the first locally produced film that I can remember, Mlevi. I have looked for that film, by the way, I can't find it. So that shows you the state of affairs we were in, nobody cared to even to go and get that film and keep it as a memento or as something that we can refer to today.
So you plan to stay then?
In the 1980s, international films continued being made in Kenya, with the 7 Oscar success of Out of Africa showcasing Kenya's beauty to the world and making it a prime location for international films. Hardships in the industry, however, led to a lull in local production.
The new government has...
Until the digital era in the 2000s inspired Kenyans to use digital technology for filming, ushering in the likes of Jane Murago Munene and the rise of Riverwood filming industry.
On each of these films that we are doing, for example, let me take Money and the Cross. Money and the Cross, Alison was the producer. So coming from an agency background, advertising agency and all that, it was a different ball game. She got to hone her skills there, and after that was fortunate to get 2 major projects. One was Siri and the other one was Sugar. Sugar is where Lupita got a lead role, and I think that's where the world got to see her acting abilities, and that opened up opportunities for her, leading to, of course, the Oscar, and where she is right now.
Existing movie theatres in major towns across the country, such as Odeon Cinema, Globe Cinema, just to mention a few, also played a major role in shaping some of the great actors we have in Kenya. However, most of these spaces have now been turned into different businesses. Nyakundi Isaboke, a filmmaker in Kenya, reminisces the nostalgic memories of the cinema halls that shaped his career, decrying that some now have become dead businesses.
Wacha spaces za cinema zikwe cinema juu sahi Odeon, Kenya Cinema, Globe, manzeni machurch, na hiyo ina take away from creatives kwa sababu hizo zilikuwa spaces zenye zingeongezea to the spaces zenye ziko currently existing, na wasanii wa screen movies zao vizuri. Juu hizo ni place ukiangalia poa ziko easily accessible to people kwa sababu ziko within the CBD.
Wako na unique talent.
As we look to the future, we appreciate that local Kenya films can now hold their own internationally, with many making to the submissions in the Oscars. However, a myriad of challenges still drags the industry behind.
Up till now, it is not clear in which ministry are we. Part of our functions are under one ministry, part of our functions are under another ministry. Who do we engage with? Because when you go to one CS, depending on how he feels your story is there, he says, no, that is my colleague in the other ministry. And you go to the other CS, depending again on how he feels about your story, yopatia babu na mwamba.
The government has to be interested in the film industry. They should know that the film industry has a lot of potential in creating employment for the youth, in also bringing in money for the exchequer. The film industry is the anchor for the so-called the creative economy. How are you going to create an economy if you don't recognize the creators of that economy?
I hope that we are able to not mirror other countries where the film space that they formed is very exclusive. It is very male, or it is especially in technical areas or director roles. It is also very geared towards people of certain backgrounds. Let's be able to also ensure that this is a space where people from other counties, not just Nairobi, are able to get support and make films that are from their perspective or from their localities.
The more movies we make, we create a culture. Right now in a month utapata kuna movie moja kwa cinema. But ukienda well-established film markets, every other week or every other weekend there's a movie coming out.
Found out what the challenge is, but what solutions can we create is by basically introducing and starting to showcase African films to a younger audience. I can say there's some interventions that were happening back in the day. You know, I grew up a bit in the 90s, and the cinemas that used to come in the villages, like the Watoto Kachine, which has now evolved to Cinema Mashinani. which is a very great intervention to build audiences for African films. And what that does is, if it's done in a consistent manner, is you bring something to people, you find people who love coming to do this as a social thing, and they create an appetite for that. And in the sense, in that, if we go now into an avenue of looking at it from a distribution perspective, is you already have an audience who's yearning for this.
As to where the next 60 or more years will bring, only Kenyan filmmakers can write the future by standing on the building blocks of yesteryears to showcase our stories to the world. The Kenya film industry has undergone a remarkable transformation, evolving from its humble beginning to becoming a vibrant and dynamic force. The industry's trajectory not only reflects the artistic expression, but also the resilience and spirit of a nation. Jacqueline Masharia for KBC Channel 1.
Now, as Kenya marks 60 years of independence from the British colony, we delve into the milestones of the Kenya Broadcasting Corporation, a cornerstone media house in the nation's history. Here is Marie Yambo with KBC's nostalgic journey. How has this public broadcaster evolved over the last 60 years?
The history of broadcasting in Kenya can be traced back to 1928 with the establishment of the British East Africa Broadcasting Limited that aired the BBC programs targeting the European settlers. The messaging sort of admonished the African way of life while promoting the settlers' agenda.
The press in those days was designed to portray the white people as a superior race.
Starting as a TV producer in 1976, Irene Wakesi worked for the Voice of Kenya as a controller of programs radio.
And of course Kenyans the citizens were very alienated from it because they were not supposed to be knowing too much.
During the struggle for independence, radio broadcasts played a crucial role.
People were educated. People learned a lot even about politics, how to do their rights.
And so in 1953, when the African Broadcasting Services KBS was established in Kenya, it played a crucial role in rallying Kenyans together. It aired news and programs in vernacular, among them the Luo, Kisomali, Kikamba, and also Kiswahili and English.
The UN Secretary General Usan has arrived.
1962, television broadcast was established in Kenya. With the transmitting station in Limuru and a single production studio at the Broadcasting House in Nairobi, and black and white, and with humble equipment, it laid the foundation for what would become a vital part of Kenya's communication landscape.
So now, I have much pleasure, Your Royal Highness, in asking you formally to open our television center.
Tunakwisha shibisha masikio yetu kwa kusikia, lakini vile vile macho nayo yataka kuwa na kitu chake, na kitu cha kushibisha macho ni television.
Fast forward to 12th December 1963, Kenya gained independence. The Voice of Kenya televised the events that shaped the nation's identity. One of the pioneer broadcasters, Mohamed Abdullahi, joined the then Voice of Kenya from 1966 to 1978 as a broadcaster.
I also presented programs like Mboya, along with the Professor Ida, Norbert Okare, if you have heard about those names.
Among the major events he cherishes is the 1972 Olympic Games.
In 1972, me and Sammy Louis covered the Olympic Games in Munich, where the Kenya team won the 4x40 relay, 400 relay gold medal. That was a really big win.
After almost 40 years, Zipporah Simani recently retired from service at KBC as a controller programming TV. Simani graced the TV screen starting off as a news anchor in 1985. A role, she says, was not just daunting, but was closely monitored by government officials.
For me, I remember one time, Waruru Kanja was our minister at that time. So Waruru would call and say, I've been watching and I have not seen an item that people who are supposed to, who came and covered and have not seen on TV. And I mean, you should be talking to the chief news editor. It says, it is you I am asking, until we told the MD that kindly find a way, an avenue of how these senior people can be calling your office before they come to us.
Thank you for making the Legends Edition your choice this evening. Our sign language interpreter.
A computer scientist by profession, Edmund Modibo, who anchors news on KBC's Legends Edition, was ushered into broadcasting through the school's broadcast by the now Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development. He acknowledges how news gathering and presentation has evolved.
It was scripts and from the papers. Even the auto cue came later on. The auto cue that we have that is so natural that we have now. And you had to also develop a certain skill where you're able to, first of all, get into understanding the content, being able to look on the script and still connect as you would in terms of reading, so that when you now read the news, you're actually able to connect with the audience.
KBC was more than a news source. It was a cultural hub. From memorable, iconic TV comedy shows like Vitimbi and Vioja Mahakamani that had Kenyans glued to their TV sets, Music Time, hosted by veteran journalist Fred Obachi Machoka, was a household favorite.
Until next week, same time, same place. Bye-bye.
Music Time made television the go-to place. People made a date with me on a Sunday evening to be at home. Others who didn't have television that time went to social halls and the neighbors who had TVs to just peep and see this show, which was almost like a religion.
But getting the programs on air was not an easy task. Yulelia Namai was the station controller Sauti House in Mombasa from 1973 to 1978.
You book a telephone to Nairobi and it does the poster. You may not even get it after 6 hours. So the communication itself was difficult in terms of telephone, and then having programs actually sent by push of service so that we show them. So Mombasa was always two days behind. Very exciting in its own way.
In the 21st century, KBC has adopted to stay relevant in the ever-changing media landscape. KBC embraced the digital revolution. Maria Yambo reporting for KBC Channel 1.
From media now, let's move over to politics. Kenya's constitution, promulgated in 2010, heralded the end of a powerful provincial administration that had existed for more than 50 years, dating back to the colonial rule. Another visible shift was the transition of 175 local authorities to 48 county governments. Jacob Kuria looks at the shift in Kenya's governance system 60 years on.
The powerful provincial administration in Kenya has a historical background dating back to the colonial era. Initially established by the British colonial government to facilitate administrative control and governance, The provincial administration continued to be powerful and influential even after Kenya gained her independence. Before independence, Kenya was divided into 8 provinces, each led by a British administrator. The aim of the provincial administration was to maintain law and order, collect taxes, and implement government policies at the local level.
They had borrowed it from the French, the prefectorial system, where you got the central government, but the executive arm of government in the regions, those are the officers they called the provincial administration, and it is so global that India, Japan, you go to Denmark, you go to Sweden, you'll get that, Canada, South Africa, you'll get that. So they are the ones who used it to represent the authority to the natives in the reserves, the officers, the chiefs, and those admin officers. They used to collect taxes. They used to keep law and order, to enforce laws. They were the ones in to the extent of Central, they were used in the recruitment of labor. Wanafinya watu sana, sasa waedu wakafanya kazi kwa wazungu.
After Kenya gained independence in 1963, the provincial administration continued to play a crucial role in governance.
You get things they call the Lancaster House negotiations. Those Lancaster House negotiations, they made sure that they had made laws. A lot of influence by the colonial administration. They made laws so the transition is not bumpy, is not revolutionary, is not bloody. So the provincial administration adapted, got that status. The provincial commissioners, the district commissioners, the transition, and we have a lot we called the promotees. So that you would be a deal for 1 year and you are promoted to a DC, because it's Kenyanization, Africanization. Then the ones who are DCs during the colonial, almost the transition period, they were the ones who came to be PCs. Others were sons of chiefs. But because they had hit, say, from 4, they would be taken to Jean School, Kenya Institute of Administration, or they would be taken to a crash program in Birmingham. They are trained and they come to take over those roles.
The provincial administrators were called provincial commissioners and were appointed by the president. PCs were responsible for coordinating development activities and maintaining security in their respective provinces, wielding centralized powers over local affairs.
During our inductions, a lot of training, the training shifted from representatives of the government to people who serve the citizen. They had been given a mandate in law and mandate of executive authority by a circular called Presidential Circular Number 1 of 1965. You are representing the president. Now, in that particular format, the DO or the DC is the chairman of the District Development Committee. Who are the members? The elected leaders, the appointed leaders, and the ordained leaders. For instance, you'd call aside as Maina or Moisaka, Fremon Moisaka. He became PS later. You ask him. He used to chair a meeting where the President Moi, he is there representing Wananchi wa Baringo.
Which led to criticism that the system was overreaching and abusing power.
And we used to advise chiefs in particular. 6 months before the election, go slow with my friend, your friend. Go slow. If you do not go slow, you will be election issue. Because you'll be connected by the Attorney General's chambers, with the supervisors of elections based there, but the deputies or provincial commissioners and the returning officers or district commissioners. Very well conducted until I think the second most rigged election, 1988, Utaambiwa, 1988, the second most rigged, which is the first most rigged 57, 58. Wewe mtu kama ambaye umevaa vizuri unapewa kura 5. Na kama wewe ni mtoto wa mama unanyimwa. Mostly rigged, open. Lakini ile ingine ni ile mlolongo, you remember?
Yes.
Hapo the government lost, we hit the crisis of confidence as a country. We hit another one last year, I saw another one. Crisis of confidence.
In 2010, Kenya adopted a new constitution that introduced devolution, which translated to channeling power and resources to the county level. As a result, the provincial administration was replaced by county governments. Owing to the existence of a system for years, there were renewed calls for redefining the roles of a provincial administration, leading to the change of their name and are now referred to as the National Government Administration Officers.
And one of the big differences that I'm seeing now here is that we made our president to be very vulnerable. Kanyangalika yote waweza tukana rais.
Though they do not yield massive powers as they used to and are now appointees of the Interior Ministry, regional commissioners and county commissioners chair security committees in their respective jurisdictions and are the link between county governments and national government, particularly on functions that have remained with the national government and other residue functions. But devolution did not only mark the end of a powerful provincial administration, it also marked the end of a local government setup, which consisted of 175 local authorities, otherwise known as councils. The authorities were classified as city council, municipal council, town council, and county council.
In that category of those 4, Nairobi had its own jurisdiction, and an act an act through Parliament that gave Nairobi a wider scope than the municipalities. Then us as municipal councils, and most of them were then, the big ones were the provincial headquarters. Except Thika wasn't a provincial headquarter. We had Nyeri, and of course now we had other municipalities that were big around the provincial headquarters. And I am a beneficiary, for example, of when county councils were working.
The city and municipal councils were led by a mayor as the political figurehead, the town clerk as the administrator, and councillors as legislators. The county councils, on the other hand, were headed by county chairmen, with county clerk being the lead administrator. They were responsible for the administration and development of urban centres, as well as planning, housing, traffic management, and other aspects of urban governance, with Nairobi, Kisumu, and Mombasa being among the first to have municipal councils.
The services that they were giving to wananchi, they were doing the roads comfortably. The health services, health centers were in the hands of local authorities. Education, roads, bursaries, and many other things. The service provider, those of us that are of my age, were vaccinated in those health centers. We never used to go. There were no what we call, people relied on private hospitals, missionary hospitals. It wasn't necessary because the services were being delivered efficiently by the local authorities of that time. So they were performing. I'm a beneficiary of that time.
Over time, the councils became autonomous in their decision-making, with residents having the opportunity to elect their representatives.
Local Government Act Cap 265 was amended. And the allocations of the funds that were coming from the consolidated fund to the local governments was taken back, removed and taken back to the consolidated fund by central government. And then local authorities now had a trickle down of about 1.5% from 40. After that, those of us that belong to that time can realize that services went down.
The councils were, however, criticized for their centralized nature and limited citizen participation, necessitating the shift to county governments.
The local government were not centralized. It is the conditions in Cap 265 that made the Minister for Local Government take up all the services. To do anything, if you are the mayor, you have to seek approval. If the minister thinks that you're not towing the line, you don't get approval. So that concentration of approvals, of you don't know what you are doing, that was the problem.
John Jacob Curia, Channel 1.
"60 years since Kenya attained independence, the country has achieved major milestones in the health sector. There has been a significant increase in the number of health facilities, making access to healthcare a lot easier compared to the situation that was there at independence. The number of health workers has also gone up, although there is still a shortage. Now, the advent of technology has also seen several hospitals going paperless, while others are practicing telemedicine.
As the country celebrates 60 years of self-rule, the milestones in the health sector, which is now a devolved function, cannot be overemphasized. Over the years, the number of health facilities has grown, with public hospitals being complemented by private and faith-based institutions. Professor Simon Kang'ethe started practicing medicine in 1973 as a clinical officer, with his first station being Machakos General Hospital.
I was instrumental in the review and the development of nearly all the curricula in Medical Training College. I helped them to rewrite their curricula in ways that they could help graduates from KMTC be able to go and advance their studies.
He would later work in different hospitals across the country, including Moyale.
And the clinical officers who are graduating were mainly being posted to the rural areas to take care of the rural population. The human resource population was very, very poor. Around 1981-82, the clinical officers in the country who could treat eye diseases were only 40 in the country. When I worked in Moyale, I remember we used to wait for 1 year or even 2 years for the flying doctor service to fly to Moyale to do a cataract surgery. And when they announced that they were coming, there would be 70 or 80 patients waiting.
He notes that back in the day, hospital infrastructure was in a sorry state compared to what Kenya is enjoying now.
You go into some hospitals at that time, you could find that even the toilets that people would use when they come to hospitals were in very, very poor state, very, very poorly maintained. But now you go to our hospitals, they are almost like second homes. They have improved tremendously. Very few hospitals had ambulances. And in those that they had any means of transport, there could be a few Land Rovers here and there.
Kenyan health sector has embraced technology with a vision to have hospitals go paperless.
For instance, if you are in facility A, which could be in Homa Bay or Migori, and you want to consult a specialist here in Nairobi, you are able to do like a scan and share with a specialist who can be able to put meaning into it so that you take intervention wherever you are.
The government has over the years invested in more sophisticated equipment for diagnosis and treatment of diseases. For instance, Kenyans are able to receive cancer treatment locally, as opposed to the past when many had to take trips abroad to countries such as India.
The country recently acquired the CyberKnife system for use in cancer treatment. It is a non-surgical and delivers high-dose radiation to cancerous or non-cancerous tumors with extreme accuracy while not damaging healthy tissue surrounding the tumor. Governments over the years have invested in the workforce with the recruitment of health workers to cater to the growing population. However, health worker unions say that despite these, there is a gap that needs to be filled.
They promised to employ more than 20,000 healthcare professionals. Only 11 counties that are halfway to meet the staffing norm as recommended by the WHO. So that one actually put doubts in terms of the realization of the UHC and the health reform that we are focusing on.
The government is currently focusing on achieving universal health coverage, and part of this entails focusing on primary care. To support these, 100,000 community health promoters were hired to complement health workers at the community level. Nancy Okware, Kenya at 60.
At independence 60 years ago, only 8.1 million people lived in Kenya. Now, Kenya National Bureau of Statistics data shows that this number has grown tremendously and it stands at 55 million as at 2023. The rapid growth is attributed to a drop in mortality rate, a younger population, improved standards of living, and attitudes and practices that favor high fertility. Here is Edna Murungi with the population growth details since Kenya gained her independence.
Record shows that as at 1963, when Kenya gained independence, the population was 8.1 million. 3 years later, this rose to 10.9 million, and a decade on, in 1979, 15.3 million were recorded to be Kenyans. The population continued to grow, hitting 21.4 million in 1989, 28.7 million in 1999, that's 7.7 million in 2009, and by 2019, the official census reported 47.6 million. KNBS data shows that this year's Kenya's population is at 55.1 million. The highest increase in Kenya was recorded in 1982 at 3.94%, while the smallest increase was recorded in 2015 with 0.32%. The growth and high fertility has resulted in a decline in gross domestic product per capita food consumption and land quality, a high dependency ratio, urban crowding, and inadequate health systems.
The sustained campaign should help us in women getting to know, best, to get to understand best what is it that I would desire to have, and what is this number that I would be able to manage, and all that kind of a thing. Of course, it's not only for females only, but in a household you'll be talking of a man and a woman. Both of them are actually in the best position to decide on the number of children that they want to have. But that should be informed by the information of what it means to have many children or to have few children and the like. So the efforts are still there to really work towards achieving the balance between the population growth and the economy.
The rapid growth prompted the government to promote family planning methods in 1978 to lower fertility rates.
Family planning has played a critical role in just controlling population growth, because we know that population growth has a direct impact on economic growth. The unmet need that was registered by KDHS 2022 had improved by 4 percentage points. We were at 18%, now the country is at 14%. In terms of total fertility rate, we came from 3.9 to 3.4. That is a good and great achievement for this country.
The 5 counties with the highest population are Nairobi City with over 4.3 million, Kiambu 2.4 million, Nakuru 2.2 million, Kakamega 1.9 million, and Bungoma at 1.7 million. The 5 counties with the least population are Lamu at 143,916, Isiolo with 267,993, Samburu at 310,320, Tana River with 315,941, and Taita Taveta with 340,664 persons. In terms of urban planning, 30.7% of Kenyan population is urban, with 16,943,167 persons in 2023 compared to 1963, when it was averaged at 8.04%, with projections that more than 50% will live in urban areas by 2030. The country's urbanization rate has averaged 6% since independence. At a national level, the number of females is estimated at 26.73 million compared to 1963, when we had an estimate of 4.4 million females, while the male population amount to approximately 26.28 million in 2023 compared to 1963, which was approximately 4.3 million. The number of intersex persons recorded in 2019 was at 1,524 persons. Kenya's population is projected to rise to 63.9 million in the year 2030. In 1963, Kenya's population was at 8 million, but now in 2023, it has grown to 8 folds. Now my big question is, what are families doing to survive these harsh economic times? Edna Murungi, reporting for KBC Channel 1.
Let's now get sporty. Kenya's sporting scene has been dominated by conventional sports such as athletics, football, volleyball, rugby, or the rough game played by gentlemen, as well as boxing. However, the recent years have seen emerging sports place Kenya at the top of the steps of the podium on global events. One such sport is rollball, where Kenya are the reigning women's and men's world champions. Another sport that's fast rising is kabaddi. As Kenya celebrates 60 years, could this new kids on the block be the new source of sporting glory for Kenya? Kingori Mwangi with the details.
Kabaddi and rollball are the sports highly growing and developing in the country. With the borrowed ideas from foreign states, the game have generally found a stream in the country, forming a culture.
It's fantastic defense from Team Kenya.
Kabaddi, having its roots in India, was introduced in Kenya on August 2012, and in March 2013, the Kenya Kabaddi Union was founded.
Hapa mtaa tulikuwa na kabaddi mtaani. Ile mtaani tu naingia pale Githurai, Kayole. So tulianza hapo hivyo, tulikuwa tunacheza na mtaani tu.
Kenya Kabaddi has been privileged to send players to esteemed Pro Kabaddi League in India. Since the inception of the league, Simon Kibura made history as the first Kenyan to participate, playing for Pioneri Paltan in second season and Bango Warriors in the third season. The Kenya Kabaddi national team first represented the country in 2016 Kabaddi World Cup. Based on their performance, the Kenya team is ranked 6th globally, behind India, Iran, South Korea, Thailand and Bangladesh.
Tofauti yetu na wao si kubwa. Alafu tukienda ugenini unapata pia kuna kitu tofauti yenye sisi hatufanyi. So tukirudi kila mali tukienda lazima turudi na 1 2 3 yenye lazima tuongeze ile yetu ndio tujipate tuko hapo karibu na wao. Hii kabaddi itakuwa kila mtu ako zile na wanakuwa na ile fixtures venye hii weekendi timu gani na gani inaenda kucheza vile ball. Itakuwa ni sasa si kila time ati ni ball tunaenda kuwatch ball. Itafika time naenda kuwatch kabaddi.
Recently, Kenya Kabaddi emerged as the winners in the Eastern Africa Championship. Additionally, the Kenya Kabaddi national team has achieved the distinction of being two-time silver medalist in the Bangladesh Bangbadhu Cup over 2 seasons.
Because he is tall, I think, waiting for the decision of...
On the other hand, Rollball Kenya have overcome all odds to rise from grass to grace with success in the global showpiece. Rollball is a sport that is gaining popularity worldwide and has also found a fan base in Kenya. It also combines elements of basketball, handball and skating. Kenya won the first World Cup in 2015 in Chennai City, India, before reclaiming the title 4 years later in the same city. The largest gong came in April 2013 when the team successfully defended the title in the final in Pune, India. For Kenya at 60, I'm King Orimwangi.
Well, and that brings us to the end of that special coverage. I want to thank you for staying with us. Remember, tomorrow we are going to give you end-to-end coverage as Kenya celebrates her 60th birthday. Happy birthday, Kenya. Thank you for watching. I'm Mboya. Good night and God bless.
School fees mtoto imelipwa, lakini bado tunataka kuendelea throughout.
Lotomoto imekuja kwa maisha yetu when I needed it the most. That is all I can say for now. I'm so grateful. May God bless you.
Cheza Lotomoto. Shinda pesa moto moto.
Beberu hakutaka kutia sukuko mbele. Hakutaka kufanya chochote. Na kwa hivyo watu wakawa hawana nafasi.
Ijapokuwa watu wakisema kufundisha watoto watapata kazi wapi?
Our villages and towns are powered by electricity.
How has Kenya fared in the realization of her independence clarion call of eliminating ignorance, poverty and diseases? Kenya at 60, a special KBC coverage beginning Monday, the 4th of December to Jamhuri Day.
Hi, my name is Emmanuel Jal. You're watching Grapevine, KBC Channel 1.
Ready when you're ready or not. Ready when you're ready or not. Ready when you're ready or not. Ready or not, the Grapevine team is here to ensure that you do get to be entertained. How you doing?
That's what's up.